Please, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." The scream tore through the night at exactly 3:17 a.m. on February 15, 2024, from the basement of Eleanor Mitchell's $1.9 million mansion in Vancouver's prestigious Shaughnessy neighborhood. Neighbors heard it clearly through their windows. A sound so raw, so desperate it made their blood run cold. But no one called for help. In neighborhoods like this, people mind their own business. By dawn, the screaming had stopped forever. Detective James Park arrived for the wellness check 12 hours later. The basement door stood wide open. The smell hit him immediately. Death and waste thick in the air. But what he found beyond that threshold would stay with him for the rest of his life. The basement looked like something from a nightmare. Soundproof foam covered every wall. Heavy chains hung from reinforced beams. A metal chair bolted to concrete, surrounded by buckets of ice water, electrical equipment, and medical instruments arranged with surgical precision. And there, still shackled to that chair, was 62-year-old Eleanor Mitchell. Her designer clothes soaked in blood and urine. Her perfectly manicured fingers broken and twisted. Her eyes staring in absolute terror at something only she could see. The expression on her face suggested she died in unimaginable agony. Scattered around her body were dozens of video recordings labeled with dates spanning 31 days. A leather journal lay open beside the chair, filled with Eleanor's handwriting. Detailed plans for psychological torture, sleep deprivation schedules, starvation protocols. But the most chilling discovery was a Canadian immigration file belonging to Amir Hassan, age 28, last seen entering this house 4 days ago. His photo showed a gentle young man with kind eyes. According to the timestamps on the torture videos, he had been Eleanor's prisoner for over a month. Now Eleanor was dead, and Amir Hassan had vanished without a trace. Detective Park stepped over a bucket filled with ice and blood. She wasn't the victim. She was the monster. And somehow he became something worse. Welcome to Crime Canvas, where we examine the stories that challenge everything we think we know about human nature. If you're interested in true crime that goes beyond the surface, subscribe to our channel and join us as we explore the complex realities of crime, justice, and survival. This isn't just another story about a lonely widow and an immigrant worker. This is about how desperation transforms ordinary people into predators. How betrayal can drive someone to become exactly what they hate most. And how sometimes, the only way to escape a monster is to become one yourself. To understand how a privileged Canadian widow became a basement torturer, and how her immigrant victim escaped by becoming the very nightmare she created, we need to go back 4 months to when desperation first knocked on Eleanor Mitchell's door. November 2023. Eleanor sat alone in her marble kitchen, staring at the prescription bottles lined up on the granite counter. Ativan for anxiety. Ambien for sleep. Oxycodone left over from her knee surgery, saved for the really dark days. Thomas had been dead for 3 years, but the house still echoed with his absence. At 62, Eleanor was wealthy, beautiful, and completely hollow inside. The life insurance had left her with $2.4 million, but money couldn't buy what she truly craved. Someone who gave a damn whether she lived or died. Her children had abandoned her emotionally long before Thomas's funeral. Her daughter called from London maybe twice a month, always rushing to end the conversation. Her son in Toronto sent obligatory birthday cards and avoided her calls. They blamed her for their father's death. The stress of managing her pill addiction, the constant fights, the emotional manipulation that had nearly destroyed their marriage before his heart finally gave out. The loneliness was eating her alive from the inside. She tried everything. Yoga classes where women half her age ignored her. Charity work where she felt like an outsider. Even online dating that ended when she lost $55,000 to a romance scammer who sweet-talked her for 3 months before disappearing. That's when the TaskRabbit notification pinged on her phone. The upstairs bathroom faucet was leaking again, and she needed someone reliable. Someone safe. Someone who wouldn't rob her or seduce her or disappear with her money. She scrolled through profiles of local handymen, dismissing most as too rough, too young, too suspicious. Then she found him. Amir Hassan. 28 years old. 5-star reviews. Photos showing a gentle face with honest eyes. Every review mentioned his politeness, his respect for clients' homes, his incredible work ethic. Professional, courteous, and incredibly skilled. Read one review. Left my house cleaner than he found it. Eleanor booked him immediately. When Amir arrived that gray November afternoon, everything about him radiated decency. He removed his work boots without being asked. Spoke to her with genuine respect. Attacked the leaky faucet with the focused intensity of someone who took pride in quality work. But what captivated Eleanor wasn't his skill. It was his kindness. He noticed her struggling to reach items on high kitchen shelves and quietly moved everything down while she wasn't looking. When she mentioned feeling dizzy, he made her tea and insisted she sit until it passed. He asked about the family photos on her mantle, listened to her stories about Thomas, and shared gentle memories of his own grandfather back in Lebanon. "You have such a beautiful home," he said as she paid him for the faucet repair. "Your husband must have had very good taste," had Eleanor corrected, her voice catching. "He died 3 years ago." The expression that crossed Amir's face, genuine sympathy without pity, understanding without judgment, broke something loose in Eleanor's chest. When was the last time anyone had looked at her like that? Like she mattered? "I'm so sorry for your loss," he said simply. "It must be very difficult living with such loneliness." That night, Eleanor couldn't stop thinking about him. His respectful manner. His gentle hands fixing her broken faucet. The way he'd made her feel seen, heard, valued. For the first time in 3 years, she'd felt human again. Eleanor started finding excuses to call him back. A squeaky door hinge. Loose cabinet handles. Programming the smart thermostat she'd never bothered learning. Each visit, she learned more about his story. The family back in Lebanon who'd mortgaged their home to send him to Canada. The 3 jobs he worked to send money home. The immigration paperwork that kept him awake at night. "My parents, they sacrificed everything for my future," he explained one December day while fixing her garage door. "I work 16 hours but still not enough. Immigration lawyer wants $22,000. I don't know how." Eleanor's heart ached for him. This sweet, hard-working young man deserved so much better than the struggle he faced every day. She began offering small helps. Editing his immigration documents. Teaching him Canadian expressions. Inviting him for lunch after work sessions. By Christmas Eve, when she gave him an expensive tool set and watched tears fill his eyes at such unexpected generosity, Eleanor had convinced herself she'd found something special. Not romance. She wasn't delusional. But genuine friendship. Maybe even a surrogate son to fill the void her real children had left. But Eleanor Mitchell had always been excellent at lying to herself. And the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves about our own motivations. What she thought was kindness was actually calculation. What she called friendship was really investment. And what she convinced herself was maternal affection was the first stirring of an obsession that would transform both their lives into a nightmare neither could escape. The trap was being set, piece by piece, with every act of generosity. Eleanor just didn't realize yet that she was building a cage for them both. 2 days after Christmas, Eleanor called Amir with an offer that seemed too good to be true. Full-time employment as her personal handyman and property manager. $1,600 a week, plus benefits, to maintain her house and help with daily tasks. "You won't need other clients anymore," she said, her voice bright with excitement. "I have enough projects to keep you busy full-time. Think of all the money you could send home to your family." Amir hesitated. The money was incredible, more than his 3 part-time jobs combined. But something in Eleanor's tone made his stomach clench. The way she said "you won't need other clients" sounded less like a benefit and more like a command. "This is very generous, but I have commitments to other people. Call me Eleanor, dear. We're partners now." Her laugh had an edge to it. "And don't worry about those other clients. I'll pay you so well you won't miss them." Within a week, Eleanor had systematically destroyed Amir's other income sources. She called his clients claiming he was unreliable. Left negative reviews on his TaskRabbit profile. Even contacted his warehouse supervisor suggesting he was stealing supplies. When the calls stopped coming and his other jobs evaporated, Eleanor was there with sympathy and solutions. "It's probably for the best," she said, stirring curry in her gleaming kitchen while Amir sat at the marble island, too shocked to eat. "Those people didn't appreciate your talents like I do. Here, try this. I found the recipe online. Does it taste like your mother's cooking?" The cooking lessons became daily rituals. Eleanor insisted on learning traditional Lebanese dishes while teaching Amir to prepare Canadian comfort foods. She bought expensive spices, special cookware, and traditional serving dishes, turning her kitchen into a cultural laboratory where she could study everything about his background. "Tell me about Eid again," she would say, recording their conversations on her phone. "I want to understand your traditions. Maybe we could celebrate together next year." Amir found himself trapped between gratitude and growing unease. Eleanor's generosity was overwhelming. She paid for his advanced English classes, bought him professional-grade tools, even had business cards printed with Hassan Property Services and her address as his office. But each gift came with invisible strings that pulled tighter every day. "I don't understand why you need other friends," she said one January evening, watching him text someone in Arabic. "Am I not enough company after everything I've done for you?" The guilt was expertly applied. Eleanor had perfected the art of emotional manipulation during 27 years of marriage to Thomas. She knew exactly how to make Amir feel selfish for wanting independence, ungrateful for maintaining relationships outside her control. When Amir mentioned his immigration lawyer needed $27,000 to expedite his permanent residence application, Eleanor's eyes lit up like she'd won the lottery. "I'll pay it," she said immediately. "Consider it an investment in our future partnership." "Eleanor, I cannot accept such money. It's too much." "Nonsense. We'll open a joint account to make the payments easier. That way, everything is transparent and professional." The joint bank account was Eleanor's master stroke. Within weeks, she was managing all of Amir's finances, depositing his salary, paying his rent, controlling his spending. She convinced him it was more efficient, more organized. What she didn't mention was that it gave her complete visibility into his financial life. "Why are you sending so much money to Lebanon?" she asked one February morning, reviewing bank statements over coffee. $3,200 last month alone. That's more than most Canadians save. Amir's jaw tightened. "My family has debts. The house loan. My father's medical bills. But your immigration case is more important right now. Every dollar you send away is a dollar not invested in your Canadian future. Our future." The possessiveness was becoming impossible to ignore. Eleanor monitored his phone calls, showed up unannounced at his apartment, created emergencies whenever he tried to maintain friendships with other immigrants. She had isolated him so completely that she had become his entire world. "Once your papers come through, we'll travel together," she promised, showing him brochures for trips to Europe, Australia, even Lebanon. "I want to meet your family, see where you grew up. We'll be proper partners then." But Eleanor's idea of partnership looked increasingly like ownership. She controlled his schedule, his finances, his social life. The generous employer had become something far more dangerous. A woman who believed she had purchased a human being. The breaking point came on February 8, 2024, when Eleanor's private investigator delivered a manila envelope that would shatter her carefully constructed fantasy. Inside were photographs of Amir at a Lebanese restaurant in Vancouver, holding hands with a beautiful young woman in a traditional dress. Phone records showing daily calls to the same Beirut number. Western Union receipts for money transfers labeled wedding savings. And most devastating of all, a screenshot of Amir's WhatsApp status. "Can't wait to marry my Layla. Only 6 months until I bring her to Canada." Eleanor sat in her empty kitchen, staring at the evidence with trembling hands. 3 months of generosity. $55,000 invested. Complete control over his life. And he was planning to marry someone else the entire time. She had been played again. But this time, the man who betrayed her was living under her roof, dependent on her money, legally bound to her through immigration papers she had funded. This time, Eleanor Mitchell wouldn't be the victim. The confrontation happened that same evening. Amir arrived for dinner to find the photographs spread across the dining room table like playing cards in a deadly game. "Her name is Layla," Eleanor said quietly, her voice unnaturally calm. "Pretty girl. How long have you been engaged?" Amir's face went white. "Eleanor, I can explain." 2 years, the investigator said. "You've been engaged for 2 years. Before you even came to Canada. Before you met me. Before I gave you everything. I never lied to you about my personal life. You never asked." "I never asked?" Eleanor's composure shattered like glass. "I gave you a job. A future. $55,000 of my money. And you think I don't have the right to know you're using me as your immigration sugar mama?" Amir had never seen her like this. Eyes wild with rage. Hands shaking with fury. This wasn't the lonely widow who made him tea and asked about his family. This was something else entirely. "I'll pay back every penny," he said carefully, backing toward the door. "The job. The immigration money. Everything. Just give me time." "Time?" Eleanor laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "Time for what? To bring your little bride to Canada once I've solved all your problems? To start your new life with my money while I go back to being alone? Eleanor, please be reasonable." "Get out," she screamed, throwing the photographs at him. "Get out of my house and never come back." Amir grabbed his coat and fled, leaving Eleanor alone with the wreckage of her delusions. She sat in the dark for hours, prescription bottles and wine glasses multiplying on the table, planning her next move. By morning, Eleanor Mitchell had decided that if Amir Hassan thought he could use her and disappear, he was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The lonely widow was gone forever. What remained was something far more dangerous. A woman with nothing left to lose and all the resources in the world to get revenge. February 10th marked the shift. Eleanor, who for weeks had cried herself to sleep over Amir's betrayal, sat at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee and an open laptop. Her search history that day would later read like a blueprint for madness. How to soundproof a basement. Best restraints for large adults. Psychological torture techniques. How much sleeping medication to sedate without killing. Each click seemed to strip away another layer of hesitation. By noon, she was driving to the hardware store, loading her trunk with chains, padlocks, hooks, and heavy-duty screws. From there, she stopped at a pharmacy for over-the-counter sleep aids and medical supplies. Gloves, disinfectant, syringes. Her last stop was an electronics shop where she bought 2 discrete security cameras and a memory card big enough to store hours of footage. Back home, she descended into her basement, flicking on the single bulb. The space smelled faintly of dust and paint. She worked for hours, installing the chains to a reinforced beam, testing the locks, positioning the cameras so they would capture every angle. On a workbench, she laid out gauze, antiseptic, and tape with the care of someone setting a dinner table. By midnight, the basement no longer felt like storage. Felt like a stage. The next day, she prepared her alibi. To her neighbors, she mentioned casually that Amir would be helping her with some minor renovations for the next couple of weeks. It was a believable story. No one would think twice about a younger man helping an older woman with heavy lifting. In her mind, the narrative was simple. He had taken her money, her trust, her plans for a future. Now she would take his freedom. She repeated the thought until it felt less like revenge and more like justice. By February 12th, her resolve had calcified. At 10 a.m. she called him. Her tone was warm, even conciliatory. She told him she had thought it over, that she would return the money, sign the immigration papers, and they could part on good terms. One last dinner, she said, before you start your new life. He hesitated, suspicion flickering in his voice, but agreed. That afternoon, she cooked a lavish Lebanese meal. Chicken shawarma, hummus, saffron rice. She lit candles, set out wine glasses, and placed a small camera discreetly on the shelf to capture his confession. On the stove, a pot of mint tea simmered. Into his cup, she stirred a fine powder made from crushed sleeping pills. At 7 p.m., Amir arrived, smiling politely but guarded. The first half hour passed in pleasant conversation. She laughed. He relaxed. Then, as he sipped the tea, a faint confusion crossed his face. His speech slowed. His eyes grew heavy. He pushed back from the table, muttering that he should go, but his legs betrayed him. In the hallway, he stumbled, crumpling to the carpet. Eleanor stood over him, her breathing calm. She gripped his wrists, dragged him down the basement steps, and locked him into the waiting chains. Clicking the camera on, she whispered, "Day 1 of your education." When Amir woke, the first thing he noticed was the silence. It wasn't natural silence, but the deadened kind that pressed in from all sides. The kind that only soundproofed walls could create. His wrists and ankles were locked in cold steel, the metal biting into his skin. Above him, a single bulb burned with a sterile white glare. The air smelled faintly of bleach. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, holding a clipboard. She looked almost professional. Her sweater pressed. Hair neatly tied back. Day 1, she announced, is about understanding consequences. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried the conviction of someone who believed she was delivering justice. The lessons began immediately. Sleep deprivation came first. The light never went off. At random hours, speakers hidden in the walls blasted static or sirens that jolted him awake. Food was reduced to water and crackers. Enough to keep him alive but never full. She wheeled in a laptop and made him watch videos of his family and the woman in Lebanon, pausing to remind him how much money he had taken from her. "You need to feel what I felt," she said, her hand resting on the mouse like a judge with a gavel. Sometimes she staged mock immigration interviews, demanding he prove why he deserved to stay in Canada. At first, Amir fought back with sharp words and a cold stare. But each day shaved a little more off his resolve. By the second week, the torment grew physical. At intervals, she dragged him to a corner and doused him with buckets of ice water until his skin burned from the cold. At night, speakers played Arabic songs on repeat at a volume just below pain, their once familiar melodies turning into weapons. She manipulated the thermostat, cycling between freezing cold and suffocating heat. She staged what she called cooking lessons, forcing him to sit nearby while she fried food, letting hot oil spit close enough to sting. His chains allowed him to shuffle short distances, and she put him to work cleaning the basement floor, his movements awkward and restricted. Eleanor's hands were steady during what she called medical checks, her volunteer nursing experience guiding her as she swabbed wounds only to reopen them moments later. "Your family thinks you abandoned them," she whispered one night, crouching beside him. Amir's body began to betray him. Sharp weight loss. A raw infection on his ankle where the chain rubbed. A mind fogged by hunger and pain. The Amir who had walked into her home weeks ago was slipping away. By the fourth week, the balance of sanity began to tilt. Eleanor's once practiced composure cracked. She spoke to herself in the dark, laughed without reason, sometimes forgot to bring food for days. She told him that soon she would send a copy of the recorded confessions to his family. Amir, meanwhile, had stopped shouting and started nodding when she spoke, lowering his eyes, playing the role of a man fully broken. In truth, he was studying her every move, the way she fumbled with the lock on his chains, how long she stayed away when she left for errands, which keys she carried in her sweater pocket. During one forced cleaning session he found it, a weak link in the chain near the recliner's base. It was small, but with enough time and leverage it could be broken. He began to plan. On the evening of February 13th, Eleanor staged what she called the final lesson. She stood over him with the camera rolling, explaining that his time was nearly up. "Tomorrow," she said, "your family will know exactly what you are." The threat was deliberate, her tone laced with satisfaction. For Amir, the words ignited something that had been smoldering for a month. Rage crept through him, threading itself between the hunger and exhaustion. She thought she had stripped him of everything. But beneath the bruises and the hollow eyes, something was still alive. When the basement door closed behind her that night, he stared at the weak chain link in the dim light. February 14th was hours away. And for the first time since he'd collapsed in her hallway, he felt a surge of control. Valentine's Day would not be the day she sent his shame across the world. It would be the day he walked out of this place. And the day she finally understood the cost of turning a man into prey. February 14th, 3 p.m. The door to the basement slammed shut and the muffled sound of Eleanor's heels faded as she climbed the stairs. A moment later, the front door clicked closed. Through the sliver of light under the basement door, Amir could see the faint shadow of her leaving, grocery bags in hand. His heart didn't race. It pulsed slow and deliberate, the way it had in the days he'd been rehearsing this moment in his mind. The weak chain link he had discovered weeks earlier sat just below his ankle. He had worked at it quietly, every time she'd left him alone for minutes at a time, bending the metal until it remembered where it wanted to break. Now, with her gone for at least 2 hours, he braced himself against the recliner's arm, twisted the chain until his skin burned and snapped it free. He didn't run for the stairs. Not yet. He had learned patience in the past month. Instead, he moved slowly through the basement, his bare feet cold against the concrete. In a small side room he'd only glimpsed before, he found what he would later think of as Eleanor's shrine to control. Neatly labeled USB drives lined the shelves. There were printed photographs of him at work, on the street, asleep in the chair, each dated and annotated in her careful handwriting. A black binder sat in the center of the desk. Her journal. He flipped it open. Page after page documented the lessons she had administered. Notes on his reactions. Adjustments to her tactics. Toward the end, one entry made his jaw clench. Once immigration process is complete, termination required. Preferably untraceable. Must ensure full compliance before final act. It wasn't just torture. She had planned to kill him. He closed the journal, his breathing steady but heavy. He began moving through her supplies, selecting what he needed. The thickest chain. 2 padlocks. The leather restraints she had custom fitted for his wrists. He reattached the broken link in such a way that it would look untouched. Then he sat in the dark, listening to the creak of the old house above, waiting for her to return. By 6 p.m. the door opened again. Eleanor's voice floated down the stairs, cheerful. "I have something special for us," she called. He heard the crinkle of paper bags and the clink of wine bottles. As she stepped into the basement, her eyes adjusted to the darkness just in time to see him standing there. Free. The shock froze her mid-step. She opened her mouth to speak, but he moved faster, seizing her wrist and spinning her into the recliner. The chain snapped shut before she could process what had happened. In seconds, she was bound exactly where he had been for the past month. She stared at him, her voice trembling. "Amir, we can talk." No, he cut in. His tone calm but cold. "You said I needed to learn consequences. Now so do you." Eleanor's pleas turned frantic, but he didn't respond. Instead, he mimicked her every method, starting with a bucket of ice water dumped over her head. She gasped, the shock stealing her breath, her body convulsing in the cold. "How does it feel now?" he asked softly, echoing her words from weeks before. He pulled the camera from the shelf and positioned it in front of her face, pressing the record button. "Tell the truth," he demanded. "Tell it for your children." Hours passed in a slow, deliberate inversion of roles. He played her recorded taunts on the laptop, letting her hear her own voice say, "You need to feel what I felt." He questioned her in the same mock interview she had used on him, forcing her to answer while shivering under the glare of the unblinking bulb. Eventually, her voice cracked and she admitted everything. The planning, the intent to kill him, the pleasure she had taken in his suffering. He kept the camera running, cataloging every word. At one point, she tried to reason with him. "You're better than this. Don't let me turn you into—" "You already did," he interrupted. His eyes had none of the warmth she once claimed to admire. By the early hours of February 15th, Eleanor was slumped in the chair, her lips pale, her breath shallow. The basement felt colder than ever, the chill settling into the concrete walls. Amir stood over her, watching the life in her eyes flicker like the failing bulb above. She looked up at him and whispered, "You're just like me now. A monster." He didn't argue. Instead, he moved through the room with quiet efficiency. He gathered the USB drives, the journal, and a stack of cash from a locked cabinet he'd forced open. In the garage, he found her car keys, along with a wallet containing credit cards and a fake ID she had prepared for him. Perhaps for after she made him disappear. Back in the basement, he tightened the chains one last time. There was a phone on the table. He picked it up, stared at it for a long moment, and then set it back down. Calling the police would mean going back into a system he no longer trusted. Leaving her here would mean no one would know the whole truth except for him. He turned off the camera, took one final look at her, and walked away. Eleanor died hours later from hypothermia and dehydration, alone in the soundproof chamber she had built for someone else. Amir staged the upstairs to look like a break-in gone wrong. Drawers pulled out, valuables scattered. Then drove her car into the outskirts of town, abandoned it, and disappeared into the Canadian wilderness. When police finally entered the home later that day, they found the basement exactly as he had left it. Eleanor's body was still chained to the chair, her eyes open, her expression frozen between shock and fury. The walls bore silent witness to weeks of cruelty. The camera sat on its tripod, memory card intact. What it contained would leave even seasoned investigators shaken. The investigation that followed was tangled in moral debate. Detectives pieced together Eleanor's psychological profile from her journal and the videos detailing her methodical, escalating abuse. Amir was officially listed as a missing person, presumed dead by many who believed he had been just another of her victims. But the footage complicated the narrative. It showed a man brutalized beyond recognition, then seizing his only chance to turn the tables. Public opinion fractured. Some saw Amir as a dangerous fugitive who had crossed the line into murder. Others called it survival. A form of justice the legal system could never have delivered. A nationwide manhunt yielded nothing. For 6 months, sightings trickled in. A man on a bus in Alberta. A shadow in a gas station camera in Saskatchewan. But nothing confirmed. Eventually the case was closed. The file marked inactive. The name Amir Hassan faded from the active rolls of the RCMP. 18 months later, a clerk at the Vancouver Immigration Office processed paperwork for a man named Kareem Mansour. He was older than his photo suggested, with a neatly trimmed beard and a calm demeanor. His documents were immaculate. His background check clean. A week later, he returned with his wife and 2 children, recently arrived from Lebanon. They spoke softly, smiled politely, and left no reason for anyone to remember them. Eleanor's house had long since been sold, the basement filled in during renovations. Only the new owners knew about the slight unevenness in that part of the foundation, and they didn't ask questions. One envelope, however, arrived on the desk of the lead investigator in the old case. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. Some monsters create other monsters. There was no return address. This story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. When does survival become vengeance? When does a victim become a perpetrator? Can we judge someone for becoming a monster when they were created by one? Eleanor Mitchell began as a lonely woman seeking connection. But loneliness twisted into obsession, and obsession into cruelty. She wanted control over another human being, and she used her wealth and privilege to trap someone vulnerable. Amir Hassan came to Canada with dreams of building a better life for his family. He accepted help from someone he thought was kind. But that help became chains. And in breaking those chains, he made a choice that would haunt him forever. The law sees this case in black and white. Murder is murder. But those who have never faced such horror can never truly understand what it means to fight for your life when the world has forgotten you exist. Both lives were destroyed in that basement. One ended. The other was transformed beyond recognition. If this story has made you think, made you question, made you see the world differently, then subscribe to Crime Canvas. We tell the stories that challenge easy answers. Stories that remind us that real crime is messy, complicated, and deeply human. Thank you for watching. And remember, the line between victim and monster is thinner than any of us want to believe.